Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started in just a moment. I'm just waiting to go live on YouTube here. And it looks like we are. Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started in just a moment. Give that extra audio. Okay, we're at the top of the hour. Things look like we're working in the technology. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Friday webinar. Nice to see some of you again. I know I spoke with the CFMTA group yesterday on the Connecting Canada chat. It's nice to see a couple of you here as well on this webinar. And as long promised, back from the beginning of March, we have Christopher Norton back today to give us his part 2 on MicroLessons. And in the meantime, I'll just update you on what's coming up in future weeks. Next week, I'm away, and so there won't be a webinar next Friday, but we'll resume again on May 3rd and May 10th. I haven't been able to advertise this much yet by email, but you'll get an email in 2 weeks' time for May 3rd, where we're going to have something really interesting called Silent Film Celebration. I don't know if any of you have seen this before or not. I ran into it last summer when I was in Chicago at the NCKP conference. It's a format where you can buy into the idea of doing a recital with your studio students, where there's a silent film being shown, and the students all play the incidental music to the film. And so it's kind of a really neat concept. They've got things packaged. So you have to purchase silent film and the rights to some of the incidental music that you'd be using. It's all at different levels. And so we're going to have someone come on and present on Friday, May 3rd on how that all works, that silent film celebration. And then the following Friday, May 10th, we're going to have Dr. Evgeny Chuganov from Lakehead University, who's going to talk to us about different schools of technique. I think you'll find that one pedagogically really interesting, really fine-grained and detailed in terms of how to use the arms, rotation, what to look for with students, and talking about all sorts of interesting concerns when it comes to teaching, whether it's beginner students or more senior students. So I hope you'll join me for those two. And again, you'll get registration links for that in 2 weeks' time at the beginning of May. Watch your inbox for those a couple of days before the May 3rd webinar. And then today, here we have Christopher Norton, of course. He needs no introduction for our audience, I don't think. He's been on many times. He has his own dedicated playlist on the CCTV YouTube channel. And so, Chris, I'm going to turn this over to you and let you take over from what you started to do on March 1st. If anyone's curious about seeing part 1 of this series with Chris and MicroLessons, just refer back to the March 1st webinar on CCTV. So, Chris, thanks for joining us today and welcome.
Thank you. So today I'm starting at the rather frightening level of grade 5 or level 5 and going up to 10. So it's actually going to be talking about pieces which are on your syllabus, on the Conservatory Canada syllabus. And I've done lessons on many of the pieces on the Conservatory Canada syllabus, but in fact, you've got a lot of my pieces flagged up. So I haven't done them all yet. But I'm making a start with some of the key ones and ones that I've been hearing students play around the country and indeed around the world as well. So I'm going to go straight in and share my screen so that you can see what I'm talking about. Here we go. And here is the little presentation. And by the way, just like to mention again, if you don't know, that's my grandson. He's now coming up for 15. In fact, he might even be 16 next birthday, but we're going to see him in Toronto tomorrow night, actually. He's playing trumpet in a school musical production. So he still plays the piano, but he also plays the trumpet. And I believe he also plays clarinet. So that's rather fun. MicroLessons is a concept I came up with. I do lots of masterclasses. In fact, I'm doing another one in Orangeville on Sunday, and I've got a whole lot of students coming to play for me. And I thought it was quite interesting to see what I would say to students if they're playing my music, because obviously I have an inside track on quite a lot of the pieces I've written. And so the MicroLessons, I have a rather frightening brief for them, because the first thing I do is play the piece. And in fact, it's all in one take. So I have to try and play the piece fairly accurately, straight to film, if you like. So what you're seeing is a genuine live performance in this room. And then I talk about some of the technical aspects and the musical aspects. And that's what we'll be having a look at a bit today. So they're short lessons which you can do at home and the students could look at them at home, or you could do them with this, in other words, look at it with the student at the lesson as well on examination pieces from me. And the repertoire will include something which you're very familiar with, American Part of Piano. I will be touching eventually on backing track usage, but at the moment I'm just doing them as solo piano pieces. But that's going to be part of the total package, if you like, of MicroLessons. And then micro ballads, which is I'm pleased to see is on the Conservatory Canada syllabus, micro Latin, micro rock, and micro swing. For those of you who aren't quite clear what these are, these I think in UK terms are graded about grade 3. So I'm assuming they're perhaps 3 to 4 kind of region in Conservatory Canada terms. They're certainly listed on your syllabus with specific grades, so you can check that out. And then connections 1 to 10. The whole connection series is listed, I think, and so I'm going to be talking about various connections pieces as well, of course. And then Microjazz Collection 1, this is interesting. This is on your syllabus. This has been out since 1983 in various forms. So it's more than 40 years old now, but it's still being used by students very happily. And the Micro Styles collection as well, which is one of the most popular books I've discovered of mine in Australia. In fact, I'm good friends with a very fine jazz player in London who's a full-time player, but also runs a music school. And he said MicroStyles is really what got him started in the field in which he's now become a professional. So that's rather nice. And then Country Preludes, which is one of my favorite and one relatively unknown book to people compared to some of the other preludes, Jazz Preludes, Latin Preludes, Rock Preludes, and Eastern Preludes. So there's actually 5 books listed here, although there is a 6th book, which I think will come on stream in due course, called Pacific Preludes. So there are actually 6 books of preludes altogether. These are all at the upper grades, I think probably starting about grade 6 and going as far as 10. And then the other thing, which is really up at the top level, is the Idaho Suite for piano, which is up at level kind of 9 and 10, and the Jazz Piano Sonata, which is right at the top at 10. I should add in passing, by the way, that there's a new publication coming out in the next month or so, which is a second piano sonata, which is the hardest thing I've ever written. So it's almost beyond grade 10, but that'll be flagged up on Facebook and various platforms. You'll see that in due course. So examples. Now, the first one is one of the most popular pieces, Scamp from Connections 5. I've heard this played so many times. It's in the Contemporary Idioms level 5. So the Connections 5 and the Contemporary Idioms 5 do seem to match up perfectly well. So if you see a 5, generally you're in 5. I've got you the music up as well, just to remind you what it looks like. And here comes the micro lesson. So you'll see I'll give a little introduction and then play the piece and then talk about it. So have a listen to this. And by the way, there's a number of you online now. If anybody wants to comment, we can always you can always chop it in, and Derek, you can let me know if there's something which we want to address at the time. But here's Scamp micro lesson. There's your logo. Welcome to today's micro lesson, which is on Scamp from Connections 5. This is an easygoing, good-natured ragtime piece. Here's the cover of Connections 5, and here's my performance of Scamp. Now, the phrasing of the melody of this is incredibly specific. You start with a drop, like that, and then what I do is I drop and then rise through the phrase, like that. And then the next one grace note, play both notes at the same time, but drop on both notes and let the grace note go, like that. And then 2 notes slow it down, so all together. So lots of very specific phrasing there, which I think really will repay your attention. So do have a lot of fun with that. The second thing is the arpeggios have an accent marked at the beginning, but in fact there's a slight accent at the beginning of every arpeggio, I think. And when you get to the very long arpeggio, drop, drop, drop. One odd thing about this piece as well, which I did that time, is that the figure at bar 8, for instance, the left hand goes, the right hand goes. So you've actually got different phrasing from the right hand to the left hand, and it's quite a nice effect, so do think about that. When the restatement comes in, this higher version, really kind of, you can almost start swaying on that. It's just a lovely moment where the whole piece becomes very extra. You can tell that everybody's joined in. It's a Dixieland band, sounds like it's there with trombone and clarinet and probably banjo. The piece gets quieter and quieter towards the end. You end up piano here. So really be piano then, and then a rather dramatic crescendo. And when you get to the last note, notice I did that. I went upwards. I didn't drop on that and get an accent. There shouldn't be an accent on the last staccato there. It should be getting louder, but coming up. And then finally, the last one, which is like a tuba playing its last note. It's rather fun. So I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun with Scamp. Thanks for listening. Do like and subscribe. See you on the next micro lesson. Bye for now. And I'm rather pleased to see that, in fact, when we did the video editing of this, that we pronounced, or rather we spelt Scamp, S-A-C-M-P, which is obviously SAC-MP, which is a little kind of political comment of some kind, I think. So that's Scamp from Connections 5, and that's as easy as it gets in the presentation today. You probably all know this is a tricky little piece, because any ragtime piece is tricky because of the fact that you've got this left hand jumping all over the place, and you've got to try and find the right notes without looking too much at your left hand. So anyway, that's a good start, I think, for the micro lessons at this level. What's going to be next? Well, Boxcar Blues from Connections 5. And here's what this looks like. And this has got this lovely bass part, which is, it says chugging along. And so it's got a very specific sound to it, with the left hand playing these fifths and sixths, and then very bluesy phrases with lots of grace notes. So have a look at the music and see what I've got to say about this in the micro lesson. Welcome to today's micro lesson, which is on Boxcar Blues from Connections 5. The boxcar is a railroad reference, and blues obviously is a blues progression. And there's various other things to tell you about the piece, but first of all, here's the cover of the book, Connections 5, and here's what the piece sounds like. Now, first thing to say, the left hand I play like this. So it's really staccato, but light. So if the right hand is mezzo forte, the left hand is going to be mezzo piano. And also I drop to the bottom of the key and bounce straight up, like that. I can feel both fingers hitting the bottom of the key at the same time. and a gentle bounce upwards, and that's the same movement every time you play one of these chords, wherever it is. So that's the first thing. The left hand is staccato and light and kind of bounce with a very relaxed wrist. Then the right hand, the first thing has a grace note, and the movement I make on the F sharp D is a down up movement with the wrist, drop, rise, you might say, and then the grace note I play at the same time. So I actually do this, but I let the grace note go immediately, like that. So grace note should always be played like that. There's another funny little point here which I realize when I play this. I pedal here, just a quick pedal in order to help with that little join where you're having to change position. And there's a couple of places elsewhere I realize that, like near the bottom of the page, pedal, pedal, and then off again. Pedal, off. So you can see I'm just using the pedal where there's a chance that it might need to be useful for joining things. So do think about that. There's a bit of pedal marked. In fact, of anything, the pedal that's marked, I think, is a little bit too much. I actually pedal, this here. I pedal the first chord, but then I come off on the fourth beat of the bar. So think about a little bit of pedal there, but not as much. The restatement is really swaggering. So you should really make that sound as though you're having a great time with the full band joining in. And then the dynamics of the piece starts mezzo forte. Obviously the restatement is loud. And at the very end, you've got this wonderful build-up. And that double forte should be with full arm weight as well. So, and also, I made a slight expression. So you could actually do that so the audience can tell you've done something really quite dramatic there. So have a lot of fun with this, I'm sure you will. Do like and subscribe. See you on the next micro lesson. Bye for now. So that's the two pieces from Connections 5 which I've chosen. What's
Chris, can I interrupt for a second?
Yes.
Just with a question here that I've got, because that piece we hear different ways, but more often than not, we hear it with the eighth note swung. How do you conceive whether a piece should be swung eighth notes or straight eighth notes? It might be a question we all have on some level.
Well, generally, if they're meant to be swung, I mark it as swung or write it in 12/8. But also, all of Connections has backing tracks, and this is a totally straight eights backing track. And so sometimes it's just worth referring to the backing tracks, which with Connections are free. You can even just Google it in a way, and you'll immediately potentially find the sound of the backing track, which is very straight eight. So I think it's that. Not that you can't have a swung performance of something. I've heard some good swung performances of pieces which weren't meant to be swung, but in general, I've been starting with a particular groove. Is that the way to put it? So that that's what it's meant to be, because and then when I've done the backing track, it's all gone along that line.
Right, that makes sense. It's a good advice to look at the backing track. I've done that before in the past too, to see what your original thought was.
Absolutely.
Thanks for that.
Okay, so we're into the wilds of 6 now, which I'll just share my screen again. Here we go. And back to here. Here we go. Now, I was rather pleased because Conservative Canada is one of the examination boards that has made quite a lot of use of APP, American Popular Piano. And there's a lot of really wonderful pieces at APP, and some of them are solo pieces that don't really have a backing track. And I think To the Stars is one such. It's one of the repertoire pieces, and I've always liked it a lot. And so I've chosen this as an example of something which you may well find comes up in your syllabus, if you like. There's what it looks like, and this is a very different feel to the pieces you've just heard. This is quite groovy and a little bit of a soul influence almost. It's a very different world anyway. So here's the micro lesson on To the Stars from Contemporary Idioms Level 6. I think I'm right in saying, hang on a minute, I'll just make sure I've got that right. To the Stars here, right? Play. Welcome to today's micro lesson, which is on To the Stars from American Popular Piano 6, the repertoire book. Here's what the cover looks like, and the piece sounds like this. So it's a nice ethereal piece, but it does have a beat. So there's actually an applied rhythm section, a slight Latin style, I would think, lurking beneath the surface. The melody should be played very legato and very nicely shaped as well. And the left hand, all the time, the phrase starts with a slight drop and a slight stress and gradually tapers away. And that's the shape of the phrases in the left hand or the right hand. The piece starts mezzo piano with pedal, once a bar. But there, I pedal each of the notes, there. So you might like to think about here and there pedaling more often than once a bar. I like the way the piece builds up with a crescendo to forte, then a mezzo piano, and here you could almost ease back on the tempo. And here, listen to the pedaling. So I'm going pedal, 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 pedal. So you can see you need to think about the pedaling because it's starting to colour this sound, but it's also helping to join. So it's got various functions there. But it's really nice to experiment with the pedal on this piece and see what you can do to make it really work well. That section, by the way, you can hear those top notes need to really have a little more weight. They need to really sing out. Watch when there's a grace note. There's one in the middle here that you pedal after the grace note. That's just a little point. And the other thing is, which I rather like, is that the piece comes around again, but this time, instead of ending up loud here, it ends up piano. And soft, stays soft, a little bit louder, and back to piano, and really bell-like. And no pedal on those two notes, but then pedal straight after that, and then just before you play the last B, pedal again. So lots of nice things to think about there, but remember a singing tune throughout in the right hand, especially with the tune in sixths, and also make lovely use of the pedal, and bear in mind there's a rhythm section, so try and keep a reasonably steady beat throughout the piece. Have fun, do like and subscribe, see you on the next micro lesson. Bye for now. Now we're on to Bahama Beach from Connection 6. Now, one thing which I thought was interesting to show you, every Connections piece does have a backing track. And I believe, yes, I'm right in saying there's a backing track with the piano on it and a backing track without the piano. There's also a slowed down version of the same piece with and without piano. So there are 4 backing tracks for every piece in Connections, which is amazing. I think it comes to a library of, well, 250 backing tracks, perhaps. It's an incredible amount. And what I thought would be quite fun is for you to, if you haven't come across this piece with the backing track, is to just play Bahama Beach with the piano and backing track so you can hear what they sound like. Because when I conceived this piece, as I have with many of them, I was thinking in particular rhythm styles, and this one is definitely a Caribbean rhythm style. So hopefully this will play for you. Yeah. So the micro lesson on Bahama Beach, I'm playing as a solo piano piece. So this is rather different. Welcome to today's micro lesson, which is on Bahama Beach from Connection 6. This is a Caribbean piece, very extrovert, very rhythmic, and to be played with great precision. Here's the Connection 6 cover, and here's my performance of Bahama Beach. Wish me luck. Phew. So, various things about this piece. First of all, each phrase starts at a certain dynamic, mezzo forte at the beginning, diminuendo to mezzo piano. So it's like each phrase is answered by a quieter phrase. This is certainly at the beginning. Then it goes up to forte, diminuendo, mezzo forte. So that's the first section. The second section is kind of in a different direction. You start mezzo piano and it builds up mezzo forte and then stays mezzo forte, and then the next phrase is forte and actually crescendos all the way to double forte. So you can see the whole second section is building and building and building, and then a very extrovert last section, which you should really play very extrovertly and also feel like you've got nice relaxed wrists that are playing it very freely. And the very end, you're going to make a big gesture like I just did and hopefully get spontaneous applause even from the examiner. Good luck with this one. Do like and subscribe. See you on the next micro lesson. Bye for now. Now, I should add in passing that when I say like and subscribe, all of these micro lessons are in a section of their own, Conservative Canada section of their own on my YouTube site, which is called Christopher Microjazz. So if you're not a subscriber already, do hop along there and subscribe, because I think I'm not sure, I'm heading for 5,000 subscribers at the moment and 1 million views. So it's actually got a lot of content in there and it's building all the time. Now, the next piece, funny enough, I posted a very good performance by a student of this only yesterday from America, I think. A teenage boy playing this beautifully, this fantasy bossa from Connection 7. When I did the Connections launch tour back in 2007, the first date I did in Canada, I think, was in Lethbridge, and the first piece I heard was fantasy bossa. So it has rather a sort of nice memory for me of going right back, and I don't think I've ever heard a bad performance of this by a student. They always seem to sort of understand the language of it. So here's what it looks like. For those of you who are curious, it's called fantasy bossa because it's a bossa nova, but it keeps going off in unexpected directions, including 3/4 at one point. So it's like I've taken an initial idea and then gone off in various fantasy directions. So here's the micro lesson on fantasy bossa. Welcome to today's micro lesson, which is on Fantasy Bossa from Connection 7. This is a very popular piece from the Connection series. It's a bossa nova that keeps going in unexpected directions. Here's what the cover looks like of Connection 7. And here's my performance of Fantasy Bossa. Now have a warm tone all the time. So again, a little bit of arm weight there, and also transferring the weight from one finger to the next, and a flexible wrist. So every phrase should be beautifully shaped, and start with a slight drop and float away so you can get the next position. So all those things count. Now the piece started mezzo piano, didn't it? And the restatement is also mezzo piano. Always be aware of the dynamics. There's quite a range of dynamics. In fact, it gets up to forte on the first page and up to forte on the second page. That's an even more full-blooded forte there, I think, in the second page. It's got com ped. I'm using lots of subtle pedaling, and you just have to experiment to see where you need to use the pedal to colour, but also where you need it perhaps to help or join, where you're having to change position. One little point, by the way, at the second last line of the first page, you've got this rather odd thing. We've got a long left-hand note and then staccato on the right hand. And I take it with my right hand and I pedal the last two chords. Pedal, pedal. So that's a way around that. It looks like you might be playing the B flat and C in your left hand, but in fact I think you should probably play it with the thumb of your right hand. There's a couple of really nice slowdowns as well. I took quite a lot of time over this. Just take a breath and then back in tempo. And the same on the second page, where you've got this. Again, it feels like a breath in and then a breathe out as you start to play. The ending is interesting because, of course, it says without pedal, and you have to just do that very dry. So it's a very subtle ending, pianissimo. Thanks for listening. Do like and subscribe. See you on the next micro lesson. Bye for now. So that's connection 7. Now we're on to Jane's song. Jane's song has a slightly notorious history because I toured the Connection series when I first, after I wrote it, throughout Canada and the States, and the tour organizer's name was Jane. And by the time I got to the end of 200 pieces, I was running out of titles, so I basically thought I'll call it Jane's song. And of course, immediately people on tour said, "Who's Jane?" And I said, "She means nothing. She's just a tour organizer." But the damage was done. So it's funny how you write a piece and blindly give it a title, and then somebody becomes accidentally immortalized through it. This has been a very popular piece as well because it's like a pop ballad. In fact, it could have been called Daniel Part 2. Daniel of Elton John is the kind of vaguely the style it's in. It's an E major, and then it shifts to 1 sharp, so kind of E minor or G major in the middle, and then back to E major again. So yeah, a nice pop ballad. And here's the micro lesson on Jane's song. Welcome to today's micro lesson, which is on Jane's song from Connections 8. This is a pop ballad. It's a key of E, so it's a guitar-friendly key, and it's proved to be a very popular piece with students. Here's the cover of Connections 8, and here's my performance. So think of this as a song without words. It's like it has got words to it. So you're playing it like a melody for a singer, with the accompaniment gently supporting underneath. So the left hand, of course, is playing a supporting role, even though it's got more notes. So, and the right hand, always with a singing tone. And when you get to the middle section, start softly, but you should have lovely singing top notes. And then you're building it as well, so you're gradually adding more weight as you get towards the climax of the phrase. Make sure the grace note, I'm more or less playing at the same time as main note when I get a grace note. So don't go, but go like that. Okay. And the top note of the melody should sing throughout the piece, so that you really make it feel like it's a song with accompaniment. And the ending is interesting because you've got a very long pedal. It starts, in fact, here at the bottom line of the second page. Pedal down, slow down, and as you play the last chord, no pedal. I quite like that effect. So suddenly the pedal is released as you play the last chord and then let it go. Good luck with this piece. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Thanks for listening. Do like and subscribe. See you on the next micro lesson. Bye for now. So that's Contemporary Idioms Level 8. And Hot Day is Connections 8, Contemporary Idioms Level 8. This was an interesting one because some of the pieces, this is one in particular, I had to do these performances in one take, and I'm afraid this took quite a few takes to get accurate, because it really does go all over the place. And in fact, it's not entirely accurate, but it's still a truthful performance, if you like, from the composer. So here's Hot Day and its micro lesson. Welcome to today's micro lesson, which is on Hot Day from Connections 8. This is a ragtime piece with a swing feel. Here's the cover of Connections 8. And here's my performance of Hot Day. Wish me luck. Wish me luck. You can see that's a hard piece to play entirely accurately. I didn't do it entirely accurately, but got a long way towards getting the effect I want there, I think. First of all, keep the left hand quiet in the right hand. So again, off the key, so I'm bouncing and bouncing upwards in order to be in the next position, dropping to the bottom of the key, so keeping it all very light. And then the right hand is very specifically articulated, isn't it? So there's some slurs, but lots of staccato, and here's a slur, here's a staccato with an accent. So look at all the details of the articulation. I think you'll find it will really pay study. And then the second section, which is really tricky because there's a lot of huge jumps, but it wants to be light and good-natured. And get used to all those position changes. I should practice it further, but you should be able to play that left hand without looking at your hands. I mean, it's almost as dramatic as that, because there are huge leaps in that, and of course the hands are crossing over as well. So, but that right hand needs to be all the time very good natured and beautifully articulated. And then the ending is forte, and that it's definitely a drop of the wrist for every single one of those chords there. And the end, I'm actually playing that with my thumb and third finger almost. In other words, hit that with full arm weight at the very end to make a dramatic effect. So good luck with this one. It's a tough one, but a lot of fun. Thanks for listening. Do like and subscribe. See you on the next micro lesson. Bye for now. And we march towards the end. We have Sunshine piece. Now this is interesting because this is on your syllabus. It's one of my favorite pieces, but I don't hear it very often. And I thought, rather than showing the micro lesson, I'm just going to show you this with the backing track so you can actually look at the music and hear what this is like with the backing, because this is a very interesting piece to play with track. So you're not really supposed to say it, but I do love that piece, even though I wrote it. So I've got a micro lesson on that on the side. I'm not going to do that at the moment because of time pressing on. I wanted to go on to one of the most challenging pieces in the syllabus in some ways. This is called Gaya Shang Wei Shui, and it's a traditional Chinese tune. And it says high mountain flowing water. And what I wanted to do is have a piece in which it's like the flowing of water underneath the tune all the way through. There are lovely performances of this online by a British concertist called Ian Farrington. And I think I have this here. And I'm just going to play a bit. I'm going to play the whole thing on, but I just want to show you a little bit of this so you can hear the kind of style. So here it is. And so on. You can tell it's a lovely impressionist derived piece, if you like, and I've heard some lovely performances of this by students as well. But it is a tricky one, there's no doubt about it. And again, there's a micro lesson on that, which I won't share at the moment, but you can find that on the YouTube site. I wanted to go on to this though. This is a very interesting case because this is a piece from the Idaho suite. Your syllabus is one of the first syllabuses to actually have pieces from the Idaho suite. This suite was written for a group of postgraduate students at the University of Idaho at the instigation of their teacher called Giovanni Re de Pedro, who unfortunately died very tragically in his 30s about 6 years ago. And he wanted me to write pieces for this group of students, and they sent me videos of themselves. But what they didn't send me was videos of themselves playing. They just had themselves talking about their life and about the things they liked. And so I wrote character pieces, if you like, based on my perception of the students. And this particular one was written for a girl who came from Alaska. And she talked about the wide open spaces and the beautiful landscapes of Alaska. And as she was talking, I started to kind of idly play, and this came out. And it's a style which I have written pieces in it before, but I've not been asked to very much because it's not remotely like anything in Connections or Microjazz. So that's very different, isn't it? And students love playing this if they can get their heads around it and their hands around it as well, because obviously it has quite big chords in it and a lot of different textures. But that's a fascinating piece on contemporary idioms level 10. And I think I'm right in saying that I'm going to be including pretty much all of the Idaho suite when I do the rest of the micro lessons for conservative Canada. So more conservative Canada specific lessons are coming. If you'd like micro lessons on specific pieces, email me at christophernortonmusic@gmail.com. There's an amazing thought, isn't it? Because I'm plowing on with some more, but there's a big list, and I'm just basically taking a stab at what I think might be of most interest. So that's it. I think that's all I've got to say at the moment about these upper level micro lessons. So I'm back, Derek.
Yeah, very nice. Thanks for doing all these upper level stuff. It's nice to see repertoire and maybe repertoire we haven't considered if we don't know the Connection series or we don't know that Idaho suite. That really opened my eyes again today, and I have a copy of it here. It's been a long time since I've read through that.
Yeah.
But nice refresher for all of us. Also, the pedagogical information is really helpful too. Does anyone out there have any questions for Chris on any of the styles or any of the motivations behind the composing, any of the pedagogical insights? We'll just wait for a minute here for people to put in the chat box. If you're here with us on Zoom, just you can raise your hand as well if you want to use the raise your hand feature. We can bring you
Or even
online.
appear on screen if they want.
Yeah, exactly. Just audio or video, whatever you like. Okay, so you say you're going to do a bunch more of these, and you've got a sort of a growing list of these micro lessons.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
I put a link there to your YouTube channel. I can see, yeah, people just scroll down a little bit. Maybe I'll just share my screen for a second just to show people what that looks
Okay.
like on the YouTube channel. If I just get out of here, lots open right now. Here it is here. You can see if you scroll down a little bit here, MicroLessons for
There we go.
Conservatory Canada syllabus. Everything we've just watched through part 1 and part 2 is there. Lots there already. So thanks so much for doing that. It's really great to see all that in one spot. And
Yes, and you've got such an interesting range of pieces available on offer. Because the first thing I did was for another syllabus whose name we won't mention, but oh, there it is
yeah,
there. But what I'm saying is that they have still largely used microjazz, some, but mostly connections. But you've gone further afield with micro Latin and micro swing and all that, which is great. And also the preludes, which have
right.
appeared on examination boards in Europe a lot, but not so much over here. So it's wonderful to see the preludes starting to be flagged up as well.
Yeah, and the micro series, for people that don't know the series, and I suspect a lot of people don't, micro rock ranges from grades 1 to 6 roughly. Really neat pieces. I use it as supplementary music all the time when students want that extra rock piece, but they don't have it in the connections book. Micro swing is also incredibly popular. My students, again, that's right from grades 1 to 6. Micro ballads is a little bit there's a couple of grade 1, 2 pieces, but that one ranges up to about grade 5 and 6 as well. And then what's the other no, what's the other one? Micro Latin, some
Micro
really
Latin,
difficult
yeah.
pieces there. Focus is a little bit higher. There are grade 1 and 2 pieces there, but that one's focusing more from grades 3 to 7 is where we have most of that stuff at. And all of the music in all of those publications in our syllabus, if anyone wants to check it out.
And I have a lovely memory of one of the pieces from Micro Rock, which in which the left hand is the same all the way through. It's like a typical heavy rock idea. And I got a very conservative looking teacher, probably in her 60s, to come up and play it with me. But I taught her the left hand by ear. It was only like a 1 bar phrase, and then she played it all the way through and obviously enjoyed herself. And I said to her, "What music do you like?" And she said, "Meatloaf." I thought I wasn't expecting that. I thought she was going to say Clementi or something. Yeah, Meatloaf. So there you go.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to hear. Okay, so a couple nice comments coming through the chat here. I think we're going to stop the live stream there at that for now. And those of you that are with us on Zoom Live, you can hang on for a bit further discussion if you like. That tends to be what we're doing the last couple of weeks. We're trying that to see how it works. So those of you on YouTube, thanks for joining us today, and we'll hope you'll join us on